OAHSPE, a new Bible in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors, a sacred history of the dominions of the higher and lower heavens on the earth from the past 24,000 years, being from the submersion of the continent of Pan in the Pacific Ocean, commonly called the Flood or Deluge, to the Cosmon Era. Also, a brief history of the preceding 55,000 years, together with a synopsis of the cosmogony of the universe, the creation of planets, the creation of man, the unseen worlds, the labor and glory of gods and goddesses in the ethereal heavens, with the new commandments of Jehovah to man of the present day, with revelations from the second resurrection, formed in words in the 23rd year of the Cosmon Era. Editor's preface to the first edition. When a man holds up a book and says, "You must believe this because it says, 'Thus saith the Lord,' should we not pity that man? Does he comprehend the liberty of man to acquire knowledge? Any book that imparts knowledge of the life and destiny of man is a good book. Any book that unfolds the character and person of Jehovah and the wonder and glory of his creations is a good book. When a book gives us information of things we know not of, it should also give us a method of providing that information to be true. This book covers that ground." The day has arrived when man will not accept proclamations and assertions. He wants plausible reasons or substantial proofs that the authority be not merely a pretense, but a demonstrable fact. The time of man worship is at an end. Readers no longer accept a book that is good and great merely because any certain one wrote it. The book must have merits of its own, otherwise it'll soon pass out of existence. If a book were to fall down from the sky with Jehovah's signature to it, man would not accept the book on that account. Why then should anything be said about how this book was written? It is not a destroyer of old systems and religions. It reveals a new one, adapted to this age wherein all men can be his brethren. New York, 1882. Preface to the present edition. Origin of OAHSPE with hints to the reader. OAHSPE is the most astonishing book in the English language. OAHSPE means sky, earth, and spirit, and is the title to a new Bible given to the world in the year 1881. Although this book is over a half a century old, it has had 2 editions and many printings in the U.S., 3 editions and many printings in England. It is little known by the Bible-reading public. Strange as the book itself is, the account of its birth. A graduate in both medicine and dentistry, Dr. John B. Newbrough was also gifted with astonishing extrasensory perception. For many years his hobby was psychic research. Many of the foremost mediums of a half-century ago were guests in his home and were put through their paces in the efforts of Dr. Newbrough to determine the truth or falsity of spirit phenomena. After several years playing around with various mediums, the good doctor became disgusted with the vacuity of the things they told him while under spiritual influence. Convinced that he was contacting out-of-the-body intelligences, he was also disgusted with the low grade of intelligence displayed by them too. A sincere seeker after spiritual light, Dr. Newbrough was impressed with the thought that he should become pure himself if he would attract the attention of the type of spirit intelligence he sought to commune with. The years between 1871 and 1881 were spent in spiritual purification, during which time he became aware of spiritual guidance. Instructed to purchase a typewriter which had just been invented, he did so. Upon sitting at the instrument an hour before dawn, he discovered that his hands typed without his conscious control. In fact, he was not aware of what his hands typed unless he read what was being printed. He was told that he was to write a book, but must not read what he was writing until it was completed. At the end of a year, when the manuscript was completed, he was instructed to read and publish the book titled OAHSPE, a New Bible. OAHSPE purports to have been written at the command of God, who states that he is not the creator, but is simply chief executive officer, similar to our president of the U.S. for our planet Earth. He explains who the creator is, and also makes clear the difference between Lord God, and the Creator. This strange book informs us that the world entered a new era in the year 1848, how the new era is different from those which preceded it, and what changes will come to humanity within the next few years. Dr. George Lawton of Columbia University recently made a study to discover the most important questions to youngsters from 14 to 18. Their questions arranged in order of frequency of asking, why are we born? What use is life? What makes people unkind, selfish, etc.? What is platonic love, true love? Is there a God? Is there such a thing as reincarnation? What happens to us, our souls, after we die? Why should there be wars, and why do people go to war? Why does a new scene seem to have happened before? What makes the world rotate, and why don't we feel it? Why must man worship something? Not only is every question in their list answered in this book, which can justly be termed the miracle of a century, but answers will also be found to every spiritual, intellectual, and economic question man is capable of asking. OAHSPE is made up of 36 books covering the history of the planet, the history of the human race, the history of every major religion, past and present, an analysis of today and a prophecy for tomorrow. Christian peoples have been praying for centuries, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, without knowing what God's will is either on earth or in heaven, or what his kingdom is like. OAHSPE gives a full and complete description of many of the heavens of the earth, with a picture of God's kingdom and the statement of when and how this kingdom will come to earth. In some form, directly or implied, the kingdom of heaven, the millennium, the fifth monarchy, the theocratic commune, the social commonwealth, or whatever you wish to call it, is an essential feature of every Bible in existence. In no other book or Bible will so clear a picture be found of the golden days of peace and plenty to be inherited by our children as will be found in OAHSPE. One of the strangest books in this strange volume is also titled Cosmogony and Prophecy. This book tells what light, heat, electricity, gravity, etc. are, what causes them, what holds planets in their places, gives them any cycles of time used by the ancients in their tables of prophecy, tells of relativity, curvature of space, lens effect of a planet's atmosphere, and other recent discoveries of our astrophysicists. Another book of the 36 books contained in OAHSPE gives the keys to the ancient languages and many of the rituals used in ancient secret orders. A book titled Discipline gives a method of developing spiritual powers, prophetic abilities, and extrasensory perceptions. Almost a century ahead of its time came this book OAHSPE. In the educational field, we find that recent discoveries in education and psychology were all foretold, and a method of child training was given which all progressive educators are endeavoring to put into practice. Strange indeed would it have been if God had not given humanity an answer to the countless questions born of these perilous times. After a study of OAHSPE, to which the present worldwide transfiguration scene is like seeing a play, the theme, treatment, and conclusion of which is familiar. The object of OAHSPE is not to supplant the former Bibles, nor Vedas, nor other sacred books, nor is OAHSPE a revision or compilation of any of them, but it is a new Bible. It is rather a Bible comprising the causes of all other Bibles, with revelations of the heavens also. Other Bibles have been for a tribe or race of people only. This one is for all the races and peoples on the earth, showing how the former sacred books were parts of one stupendous plan for our Father for bestowing light upon mortals. Through OAHSPE, we learn why the Chinese became Confucians, why the Hindus became Brahmins and Buddhists, and why the Western migratory people became Jews and Christians. In OAHSPE, we find the necessity for this revelation, which provides for the fellowship of all peoples. It is also the only Bible that reveals the affairs of the angels of heaven, what they do, how they live and travel, and the parts that many of them play with mortals. In fact, it reveals to us a heaven worth living for. The reading of OAHSPE is an undertaking worthy of the most assiduous care, if it is not a book for the casual superficial reader, but it's for the earnest, persistent seeker of light. With humble but firm assurance, the following is offered as a correct method of study. Begin at the first page and read chapter by chapter. The 3 books titled Cosmogony and Prophecy, Sappha, and Bond's Book of Praise may be omitted at the first reading of OAHSPE and reserved for later assimilation. Ha! Do not skip around in OAHSPE in an effort to secure a general idea of the contents. When this is attempted, a state of confusion results, which is detrimental to a true understanding of the concepts. OAHSPE is a book of spiritual Latin truth. It is also a historical record. It is presented in such a form that each chapter is dependent from part of its meaning on chapters preceding it. Failure to follow this vital narrative in its given sequence leads to grave misunderstanding of the texts. Where the books are superimposed, read the topmost one entirely through, and then the lower one immediately afterward. Upper books pertain to the heavenly history, lower books pertain to the contemporaneous earth history. OAHSPE is pronounced O as in a clock, A as in father, and SPE as in speak. On 100 fields of eager research, science is making or about to make discoveries that proclaim OAHSPE as the ultimate textbook of perfected science. A general statement on the contents of OAHSPE. The Book of Jehovah gives a general idea of the creation of man and of vegetable and of animal life on earth, and of the inorganic habitation of the earth and her atmosphere. With the Book of Sethantes, the son of Jehovah commences the organic habitation of the earth and her heavens, and with the Book of Song, the history is carried down for 6,000 years. Then for 49,000 years, a synopsis merely is given. The history is again taken up with the Book of Af, 24,000 years BK, and carried down to the Book of Licca, 3,400 years BK. The upper books creating of Etheria and the lower heavens, and the lower books treating of the earth and the lower heavens, vis-a-vis the atmospheria. Book of Escra and Book of Es, bringing the history down to Cosmon. Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy is a statement of the manner in which worlds are made and the force that governs them, showing how light and heat, magnetism and electricity are manufactured, being wholly at variance with the present systems of philosophy and astronomy. Also had a prophecy in regard to the future of the earth and the people thereon. The book of Sappho treats of the formation of languages and of rites and ceremonies in all ages of the earth. The books of Ben, Judgment, Inspiration, and Discipline are doctrinal. The book of Jehovah's Kingdom on earth treats of the condition of things soon to come upon the earth. OAHSPE. After the creation of man, the Creator Jehovah said unto him that thou shalt know thou art the work of my hand. I have given thee capacity for knowledge, power, and dominion. This was the first era. But man was helpless. He understood not the voice of the Almighty, neither stood he upright. And Jehovah called his angels, who were older than the earth, and he said unto them, Go ye, raise man upright, and teach him to understand. And the angels of heaven descended to the earth, and raised man upright. And man wandered about on the earth. This was the second era. Jehovah said to the angels that there with man, Behold, man hath multiplied on the earth. Bring ye them together, teach them to dwell in cities and nations. And the angels of Jehovah taught the peoples of the earth to dwell together in cities and nations. This was the third era. And in that same time the beast, the self, rose up before man, and spake to him, saying, Possess thou whatsoever thou wilt, for all things are thine and are good for thee. And man obeyed the beast, and war came into the world. This was the fourth era. And man was sick at heart, and he called out to the beast, saying, Thou saidst, Possess thyself of all things, for they are good for thee. Now behold, war and death have encompassed me about on all sides. I pray thee, therefore, teach me peace. But the beast said, Think not I am come to send peace on the earth. I come not to send peace, but a sword. I come to set man at variance against his father, and a daughter against her mother. Whoever thou findest to eat, be it fish or flesh, eat thou thereof, taking no thought of tomorrow. And man ate fish and flesh, becoming carnivorous, and darkness came upon him. Neither yet heard he the voice of Jehovah, nor believed in him. This was the fifth era. And the beast divided itself into 4 great heads, and possessed the earth about, and man fell down and worshipped him. And the names of the heads of the beast were Brahmin, Buddhist, Christian, and Mohammedan. And they divided the earth and apportioned it between themselves, choosing soldiers and standing armies for the maintenance of their earthly aggrandizement. And the Brahmins had 7 million soldiers, the Buddhists 20 million, the Christians 7 millions, and the Mohammedans 2 million, whose trade was killing man. And man in service of the beast gave 1/6 of his life and his labor to war and standing armies, and 1/3 of his life he gave to dissipating and drunkenness. This was the 6th era. And Jehovah called the man to desist from evil, but man heard him not. For cunning of the beast had changed man's flesh, so that his soul was hid as if in a cloud, and he loved sin. And Jehovah called unto his angels in heaven, saying, Go ye down to the earth once more to man, whom I created to inhabit the earth and enjoy it. And say ye to man, Thus saith Jehovah, Behold, the seventh era is at hand. Thy Creator commandeth thy change from a carnivorous man of contention to an herbivorous man of peace. The four heads of the beast shall be put away, and war shall be no more on the earth. Thy army shall be disbanded, and from this time forth whosoever desires not to war, thou shalt not impress, for it is the commandment of thy Creator. Neither shalt thou have any God, nor Lord, nor Savior, but only thy Creator Jehovah. Him only shalt thou worship henceforth forever. I am sufficient unto mine own creations, and to as many as separate themselves from the dominion of the beast, making these covenants unto me, have I given the foundation of my kingdom on earth. And all such shall be my chosen by their commandments, and by their works shall they be known henceforth on the earth as mine, and shall be called faithists. And to as many as will not make these covenants have I given the numbers of the beast, and they shall be called the Uzians, signifying destroyers. And these shall be henceforth the two kinds of people on earth, faithists and Uzians. And the angels of heaven descended to the earth to man, and appeared before him, face to face, hundreds of thousands of them, speaking as man speaketh, and writing as man writeth, teaching these things of Jehovah and his works. And in the 33rd year thereof, the ambassadors of the angel hosts of heaven prepared and revealed unto man in the name of Jehovah his heavenly kingdoms, and thus herein made known the plan of his delightful creations for the resurrection of the peoples of earth. Not infallible is this book, OAHSPE, but to teach mortals how to attain to hear the Creator's voice, and to see his heavens in full consciousness, while still living on the earth, and to know of a truth the place and condition awaiting them thereafter in death. Neither are nor were the revelations within this OAHSPE wholly new to mortals. The same things have been revealed at the same time unto many who live at remote distances from one another, but who were not in correspondence until afterward. Because this light is thus comprehensive, embracing corporeal and spiritual things, it is called the beginning of the Cosmon era. Ha! And because it relates to earth, sky, and spirit, it is called OAHSPE, the voice of man. O Jehovah, what am I that I should supplicate thee? Know I mine own weakness, or understand I the way of my thoughts? Thou hast placed before me most wonderful creations. They impress me, and my senses rise up in remembrance of the Almighty. Wherein have I invented one thought but by looking upon thy works? How can I otherwise than remember my Creator? And out of thy creations, O Jehovah, find rich food for meditation all the days of my life. And yet, though I have appropriated the earth unto myself, I am not happy nor perfect withal. Misery and crime and selfishness are upon my people. What is my weakness that I cannot overcome it? Or what is my strength that I succumb to the desires of the earth? I build up my belief and courage in thee, but ere I know the way of my weakness, I stumble and fall. Am I made that I shall be forever reproof to myself, and a censure to my own behavior? How shall I say to this man or that, Be thou pure and holy, O man? Are not my flesh and blood proof that man cannot be without sin? Oh, this corruptible self, this tendency to fall from the right way, thou, O my Creator, hast proven before my senses every day of my life that thou alone art mighty in purity and truth. Oh, that I had a starting point wherefrom to estimate thy wonderful decrees, or could find a road in which I could never stumble. But yet, O Jehovah, I will not complain because of the way of thy works. Thou hast invented a limit to my understanding, whereby I am reminded of thee, to call upon thy name. I perceive my own vanity, that whereas were knowledge mine, I should become less beholden unto thee. What am I, O Jehovah, without thee? Or wherein shall I find the glory of thy creations, but by the light of thy countenance? Ha! Thou broughtest me forth out of sin and darkness, and clothed me in light. I behold the smallness of myself in thy great works. Thou hast bound me to travel on the earth, to sojourn with beasts and all manner of creeping things, nor given me one attribute wherein I can boast over 'em, save in the power of destruction. The high firmament placed thou above me, the stars and moon and sun. I know thou hast been thither, but I am bound down in a little corner of thy works. I have not power to rise up to thy distant places, nor to know thy extended heavens. Nay, I have not power to shape my own size and stature, but all things take form and dimension whether I will or no. In thine own way are built the walls of the world. By their magnitude am I confounded, by the majesty of thy hand appalled. Why have I vainly set up myself as the highest of thy works? My failures are worse than any other living creature under the sun. I cannot build my house in perfection like a bird's. My ingenuity cannot fashion a spider's net. I cannot sail up in the air like a bird, nor live in the water like the fish, nor dwell in harmony like the bee. The half of my offspring die in infancy. The multitude of my household are quarrelers, fighters, drunkards, and beggars. The best of my sons and daughters are less faithful than a dog. I go forth to war to slay my brother, even whilst thy wide earth hath room for all. Yea, I curse the earth with starvation and sin and untimely death. Oh, that I could school myself to boast not of my greatness, that I should be forever ashamed in thy sight, Jehovah. Unto thee I will acknowledge my iniquities. I can hide nothing from the eye of my Creator. Hear me, O my Father. Ha! I took up arms against my brother. With great armies I encompassed him about to despoil him. His widows and orphans I multiplied by the stroke of my sword. The cry of anguish that came out of their mouths I answered by the destruction of my brother's harvests. To my captains and generals who showed great skill in killing, I built monuments in stone and iron. Yea, I inscribed them from top to bottom with their bloody victories. And in my vanity I called out to the young, saying, Behold the glory of great men. These great monuments I have builded to 'em. And the youth of my household were wedded with ambition for spoil. The example of my hand made 'em train themselves for warfare. To my colonels and generals I gave badges of gold. I called to the damsels a saying, Come, a great honor I give to ye. Ye shall dance with the officers of death. And they tripped up and tiptoe, elated by the honey of my words. O Jehovah, how I have not covered up my wickedness. How have I failed to make the flow of my brother's blood the relish of Satan? To my destroying host I have given great honor and glory. In the pretense of enforcing peace, I hewed my way in flesh and blood. I made great pretensions. In a kingdom I called out of my people, saying, We must have a kingdom. I showed them no reason for it. But I bade him take up arms and follow me for patriotism's sake. And yet what was patriotism? Behold, I made it as a something greater than thee, and thy commandment thou shalt not kill. Yea, by the cunning of my words I taught him my brother was my enemy, that to fall upon him and his people and destroy them was the great patriotism. And they ran at the sound of my voice, for my glory and the greatness of my kingdom, and they committed great havoc. Yea, I built colleges for training my young men in warfare. I drew a boundary hither and thither, saying, This is my kingdom, all others are my enemies. I flattered the young men with the work of death. I said, Ye men of war, great shall be your glory. And their judgment was turned away from peace. I made 'em think that righteousness was to stand up for me and my country and to destroy my brother and his people. They built me forests and castles and arsenals without number. I called unto my people, saying, Come, behold the glory of my defenses which I built for you. And they gave me money and garrisons and ships of war and torpedoes a-shouting, Hurrah for our kingdom. We have faith in these things more than in thee, our Creator. Thus I led 'em away from thee. Their eyes I turned down in the way of death. By the might of my armies I put away my righteousness. I covered the earth over with drunkards and widows and orphans. To beggary I reduced 'em. But I whetted their pride by saying, Behold what great standing armies we have. To the man that said, There shall come a time of peace when war shall be no more. Forever I mocked and said, Thou fool. And I know the counts against me, O Father. I cannot hide my iniquity from thy sight. I've said a war was a necessary evil to prevent a too populous world. I turned my back toward the wide, unsettled regions of the earth. With this falsehood in my mouth I stood up before thee. Yea, I cried out as if for the righteous, saying, I war for righteousness and for the protection of the weak. In the destruction of my brethren I stood as a murderer, pleading this excuse. Stubbornly I persisted in not seeing justice on the other side, whilst I cut down whom thou hadst created alive. About the works of thy hand I raised myself up as a pruning knife in thy vineyard. Yea, more than this, I persuaded my sons and daughters that to war for me was to war for our Father in heaven. By such blasphemy I led 'em into ruin. And when the battle was over for a day, I cried out, Behold the glory of them that were slain for the honor of their country. Thus have I added crime to crime before thee, Jehovah. This destroyed thy beautiful creation. Verily have I not one word in justification of my deeds before thee. Oh, that I had remained faithful with thee, Jehovah! But I invented gods unto the glory of the evil one. In one place I called out to my sons and daughters, saying, Be ye Brahmins, Brahma saveth whoever professeth his name. In another place I said, Be ye Buddhists, Buddha saveth whoever calleth on his name. And in another place I said, Be ye Christians, Christ saveth whoever calleth on his name. In another place I said, Be ye Mohammedans, Whoever saith there's but one God and Mohammed is his prophet shall have indulgence without sin. Thus have I divided the earth, O Jehovah, into 4 great idolatries have I founded them, and into their hands put all manner of weapons of destruction. And they are become more terrible against me and other than are the beasts of the forest. Oh, that I could put away these great iniquities, which I raised up as everlasting torments to the earth. Verily, there is no salvation in any of these. Their people are forever a destroying one another. They quarrel and kill for their respective religions, setting aside thy commandment, thou shalt not kill. They love their own nation and hate all others. They set aside thy commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. They preach and pray insufficient truth, but not one of them these people practiseth peace, love, and virtue in any degree commensurate with their understanding. These religions have not saved from sin any nation or city on the whole earth. In vain have I searched for a plan of redemption, a plan that would make the earth a paradise, and the life of a man a glory unto thee and a joy unto himself. But alas, the 2 extremes, riches and poverty, have made the prospect of a millennium a thing of a mockery. For one man that is rich, there is 1,000 poor, and their interests are in interminable conflict with one another. Labor crieth out in pain, but capital smiteth him with a heartless blow. A nation is against nation, king against king, a merchant against merchant, consumer against producer, man against man, and all things upon the earth. Because the state is rotten, the politician feedeth thereon. Because society is rotten, the lawyer in court have riches and sumptuous feasts. Because the flesh of my people is rotten, the physician findeth a harvest of comfort. Now, O Jehovah, I come to thee. Thou holdest the secret of peace and harmony and goodwill amongst mortals. Give me of thy light, O Father. Ha! Show me the way of proceeding, that war and crime and poverty may come to an end. Open thou the way of peace and love and virtue and truth, that thy children may rejoice in their lives and glorify thee in thy works forever. Such is the voice of man, O Jehovah, and all the nations of the earth this voice riseth up to thee, as thou spakest to Zarathustra and to Abraham and Moses, leading them forth out of the darkness. O speak thou, Jehovah. Man hath faith in thee only. Thou alone was sufficient in the olden time. Today thou alone art sufficient unto thine own creation. Speak thou, O Jehovah. The Book of Jehovah, wherein is revealed the 3 great worlds, corpore, atmospheria, and etheria. As in all other Bibles, it is revealed that this world was created, so in this Bible it is revealed how the Creator created it. As other Bibles have proclaimed heavens for the spirits of the dead, behold, this Bible revealeth where these heavens are, and the manner and glory and work that the spirits of the dead enjoy, whereby the wisdom, power, love, and glory of the Almighty are magnified for the understanding of man. Chapter 1. All was, all is, all ever shall be. The all spake in motion was, and is, and ever shall be, and being positive was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. He said, I am, and he comprehended all things, the seen and the unseen. Nor is there aught in all the universe but what is part of him. He said, I am the soul of all, and all that is seen is of my person and my body. By virtue of my presence all things are. By virtue of my presence is life. By virtue of my presence are the living brought forth into life. I am the quickener, the mover, the creator, and the destroyer. I am first and last. Of two apparent entities am I, nevertheless I am but one. These entities are the unseen, which is potent, and the seen, which is of itself impotent, and called corpore. With these two entities in likeness thereby of myself made I all the living. For as the life is the potent part, so is the corporeal part the impotent part. Chief over all that live on the earth I made man. Male and female made I them, and that man might distinguish me, I commanded him to give me a name. By virtue of my presence commanded I him, and man called me not after anything in heaven or on the earth. In obedience to my will named he me after the sounds the wind uttereth, and he said, E-O-I, which is now pronounced Yehovah, and is written thus. Chapter 2. Jehovah said, by virtue of my presence created I the seen and the unseen worlds, and I command man to name them, and man named the seen worlds corpore, and the unseen worlds S, and the inhabitants of corpore man named corporeans, but the inhabitants of S he called sometimes Essians, and sometimes spirits, and sometimes angels. Jehovah said, I created the earth and fashioned it, and placed it in the firmament, and by my presence brought man forth a living being. A corporeal body gave I him, that he might learn corporeal things, and death I made, that he might rise in the firmament and inherit my Ethereal worlds. To S I gave dominion over corpore. With S I filled all place in the firmament, but corpore I made into earths and moons and stars and suns. Beyond number made I them, and I caused them to float in the places I allotted to them. S I divided into two parts, and I commanded man to name them, and he named one Etheria and the other Atmospheria. These are the three kinds of worlds I created, but I gave different densities to Atmospherian worlds, and different densities to the Etherian worlds. For the substance of my Etherian worlds, I created Ethe, the most rarefied. Out of Ethe made I them, and I made Ethe the most subtle of all created things, and gave to it power and place, not only by itself, but also power to penetrate and exist within all things, even in the midst of the corporeal worlds. And to the Ethe gave I dominion over both Atmospheria and corpore. In the all highest places created I the Etherian worlds, and I fashioned them of all shapes and sizes, similar to my corporeal worlds. But I made the Etherian worlds inhabitable both within and without, with entrances and exits, in arches and curves, thousands of miles high and wide, and overruled I them with perfect mechanism, and in colors and movable chasms, and mountains in endless change and brilliancy. To them I gave motions and orbits and courses of their own. Independent made I them, and above all other worlds in potency and majesty. Neither created I one Etherian world like another in size or density, or in component parts, but every one different from another, and with a glory matchless each in its own way. Atmospherian worlds I also created in the firmament, and I gave them places and orbits and courses for themselves. But atmospherian worlds I created shapeless and void of fixed form, for there in process of condensation and dissolution, being intermediate in condition betwixt my etherean and my corporeal worlds, a 3 degrees of density created I them, and I commanded man to name 'em, and one he called Ag, and one Ga, and one Nebulae. But all of 'em are composed of the same substances, being like the earth but rarefied. Nor is there on the earth or in it one thing, even iron or lead, or gold or water or oil or stones, but the same things are in my atmospherian worlds, and I have given light to the earth, so I give light to many of them, and all such have I commanded man to call comets, and even so named he them. And I also created atmospheria around about my corporeal worlds, together made I them. Chapter 3. Thus spake Jehovah, by the light of Cosmon proclaimed he these things amongst the nations of the earth. Man looked upward in prayer, desiring to know the manner of all created things, both on earth and in heaven. And Jehovah answered him, saying, the whirlwind made I as a sign to man of the manner of my created worlds. As thou beholdest the power of the whirlwind gathering up in the dust of the earth and driving it together, know that even so do I bring together the Ag and Ga and Nebulae in the firmament of heaven. By the power of the whirlwind create I the corporeal suns and moons and stars, and I commanded man to name the whirlwinds in the ethereal firmament, and he named them vortices and wark. According to their shape named he them. By the power of rotation, swift driving forth in the extreme parts, condense I the atmospherian worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporeal worlds. In the midst of the vortices made I them, and by the power of the vortices I turn 'em on their axes, and carry 'em in the orbits I allotted to them. Wider than the moons of a planet have I created the vortices, and they carry the moons also. Around about some of my corporeal worlds have I given nebulous belts and rings, that man might comprehend the rotation of my vortexan worlds. For each and every corporeal world created I a vortex first, and by its rotation and by the places in the firmament whither it travelleth, caused I the vortex to conceive the corporeal world. A great vortex created I for the sun, and within this vortex and subject to it made I the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density and position are they thus carried forth and around about the sun. Think not, O man, that I created the sky barren, waste, and void of use. Even as man in the corporeal form is adapted to the corporeal earth, so is he in the spiritual form adapted to my ethereal worlds. 3 great estates have I bestowed on man, the corporeal, the atmospherian, and the etheric. Chapter 4. Man perceived the general foundation of the world, and he prayed that his eyes might be opened for a sign in heaven. And Jehovah answered him, saying, the clouds in the air I bring into view suddenly. By different currents of wind make I thus the unseen visible and tangible to man's senses. In like manner do I cause ethereal currents to bring forth Ag and Ga and Nebulae prior to making corporeal worlds. And all the universe have I made the unseen to rule over the seen. Let the formation of the clouds stand in view of man on earth, that he may bear witness to the manner of the unseen becoming seen. Man perceived, and he prayed for a sign of duration, and Jehovah answered him, saying, Behold, the tree which hath sprung up out of the ground and fulfilled its time, it falleth and rotteth and returneth to the earth. But lo, the wind which thou seest not never ceaseth to blow. Even so is the comparative duration of all things. Think not, O man, that corporeal things are annihilated because they disappear. For as a drop of water evaporateth and riseth in the air as unseen vapor, so do all corporeal things, even earth and stones, and gold and silver and lead, become as nothing in the firmament of heaven in the course of time. Things that man seeth created I with a beginning and an end, but the unseen I made of endless duration. The corporeal man made I belonging to the seen, but the spiritual man made I as one within the unseen and everlasting. As the corporeal man beholdeth corporeal things, so doth the spiritual man follow upward the evaporated corporeal entities of things. As corporeal things are tangible to corporeans, so are things tangible to the spirits of the dead. As I cause water to rise upward as vapor, and like a place in the air above, let it be a sign and testimony of other places in atmospheria, whereon dwell the spirits of the lower heaven. As I made a limit to the ascent of the clouds, so made I a limit to the places of different kinds of substances in atmospheria, the more subtle and potent to the extreme, and the more dense and impotent nearer to the earth, according to the condition of these different plateaux and atmospheria, whether they be near the earth or high above. So shall the spirit of man take its place in the first heaven, according to his diet and desires and behavior. So shall he dwell in earth on the plateau which he hath adopted himself during his earth life. But I made the power of attraction manifest in all things before man's eyes, that he might not err. That like should attract like made I them. Man sought to know the progress of things. Jehovah answered him, saying, Open thine eyes, O man. There is a time of childhood, a time of genesis, a time of old age, and a time of death to all men. Even so is it with all the corporeal worlds I have created. First as vapor the vortex carrieth it forth, and as it condenseth its friction engendereth heat, and in its molten becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. Then it taketh its place as a newborn world, and I set it in the orbit prepared for it. And the next stage I bring it into Simu, for it is ripe for the bringing forth of the living creatures, and I bestow the vegetable and animal kingdoms. Next doth endureth Hotu, for it is past the age of begetting, and even as the living who are in dotage. Next it entereth Adu, and nothing can generate upon it. Next cometh Uz, and is spirited away into unseen realms. Thus create I, and thus dissipate planets, suns, moons, and stars. My examples are before all men. My witnesses are without number. I raise the tree up out of the ground. I give it a time to bring forth fruit, and then barrenness, and then death and dissolution. I prepare the new field with rich soil bringing forth, and the old field that is exhausted, and man shall weigh the progress and destiny of a whole world. Let no man marvel because of the size of the mammoth and the ichthyosaurus, for there was a time for them as there is a time for the infusoria of this day. I have given thee a sign, O man, and the queen of the honeybee. Because of the change of the cell cometh she forth a queen, even from the same manner a germ as the other bees. Be wise, therefore, and remember that the earth is not in the place of the firmament as of old. Let this be a testimony to thee of the growth, the change, and the travail of the earth. Nevertheless, O man, the seen and the unseen are but parts of my person. I'm the unity of the whole. Chapter 5. Man perceived the magnitude and glory of the corporeal worlds. He said, How shall I speak of thy great works, O Jehovah, and of thy wisdom and power? Shall I open my mouth before thee? I look upon thy countless stars, suns and moons spread out over the heavens. The millions of years thou hast driven them on in the never-ending firmament, processions in and out, and round about a mighty worlds, by thy breath going forth. O thou all highest, how shall I hide my insignificance? I cannot create the smallest thing alive. What? Nay, nor change the color of a hair on my head. What am I that thou hast seen me? Tell me, O my Creator, whence came life, this unseen within me that is conscious of being? Tell me how all the living came into life. Jehovah heard the words of man, and he answered him, saying, Let a sign be given to man that he may comprehend Semu. Thereupon Jehovah caused the jellyfish and the green scum of water to be permanently coming forth in all ages, that man might understand the age of Semu, when the earth and shores by the water and waters also were covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance. And this substance was called Semu, because by Jehovah's presence quickened he it into life, and thus made he all the living, both the vegetable and animal worlds. Not that Semu is jellyfish, or the green scum of water, for the earth in this day produceth not Semu abundantly. Nevertheless, the jellyfish and the green scum of water are signs of that which was in that day of the earth. Jehovah said, Because of my presence quickened I into life all that live or ever have lived. Because I am male and female, even in my likeness thus made I them. Because I am a power to quicken into life, so in likeness of me thus made I them, and with power to bring forth. According to their respective places created I the living, not in pairs only, but in hundreds of pairs and thousands, and in millions, according to their respective places in the light upon Semu. So quickened I them in their color, adapted to their dwelling places. Each and every living thing created I new upon the earth, of a kind each to itself, and not one living thing created I out of another. Let a sign be upon the earth, that man in his darkness may not believe that one animal changeth and becometh another. No, thereupon Jehovah gave permission for different animals to bring forth a new living animal, which should be unlike either its mother or father, but he caused the new product to be barren. Jehovah said, And this shall be testimony before all men that I created each and all the living after their own kind only. Such is my person and my spirit, being from everlasting to everlasting. And when I bring a new world into the time of Semu, lo and behold, my presence quickeneth the substance into life, according to the locality and the surroundings. So did I bring forth the different species, for they are flesh of my flesh and spirit of my spirit. To themselves give I themselves, nevertheless they are all members of my person. As a testimony to man, behold, the earth was once a globe of liquid fire, nor was there any seed thereon. But in due season I rained down Semu on the earth, and by virtue of my presence quickened I into life all the living. Without seed created I the life that is in them. What? Chapter 6. When man comprehended the earth, he looked upward, and Jehovah saw him and knew the desires of his soul. So Jehovah sent his son Uz, and Uz spake, saying, Hear me, O man, the mysteries of heaven and earth will I clear up before thy judgment. Thou art the highest, and comest the chiefest of all kingdoms. From great Jehovah shalt thou learn wisdom, and none shall gainsay thee. Bethink thee, O man, of the magnitude of thy father's kingdoms, and his places in the firmament. Save I take thee into the heavens above, thou canst not comprehend the places thereof. Man rose up in spirit and ascended into the firmament, for his spirit had crystallized into separateness, and Uz and Es ascended with him, speaking in the voice of the Father. And man beheld that each and everything in the firmament was orderly, and still each to itself located. Then spake Es, saying, Behold, O man, as a father soweth corn in one place, and wheat in another, and roots in another, and flax, everything in a separate place, even so doth Jehovah store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place. The substance of the iron in one place, the substance of the stones in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and even so the substance of the animal kingdom, and of the arls and sand. For he hath places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. Thus that thou sawest are the AG and the GA and the nebulae, and amidst them in places there is Simu also. Let no man say, Yonder is hydrogen only, and yonder oxygen only. The divisions of the substances of his creations are not as man would make them. All the elements are to be found not only in places near at hand, but in distant places also. When the Father driveth forth his worlds in the heavens, they gather a sufficiency of all things. So also cometh it to pass that when a corporeal world is yet new and young, it is carried forth not by random, but purposely in the region suited to it. Hence there is a time for Simu, a time for fallen nebulae to bury deep the forest in sea-mooing beds, to provide coal and manure for a time thereafter. So is there a time when the earth passeth a region in the firmament, when sand and arl are rained on it, and covered up in gases bound, and sealed up for the coming generations of men. And man said, I am ashamed in thy sight, O Jehovah. I looked upward and said, Behold, the sky, it is nothing. Then I said, It is true, the corporeal worlds are made of condensed nebulae. But I saw not the wisdom and glory of thy works. I lock thee up in coincidences and happenings. The unseen world hath become seen. The unreal hath become real. Oh, that I had been mindful of thee. Oh, that I had not put thee afar, nor imagined laws and decrees. Teach thou me, O Jehovah, how was the beginning of man? How was it with the first of the living that thou broughtest forth? Jehovah said, Have I not declared myself in the past? In my works have I not provided thousands of years in advance? As I have shown system in the corporeal worlds, know thou, O man, that system prevaileth in the firmament. To thee I gave life, to man I gave life, and spirit also. And the spirit I made was separate from the corporeal life. Out of Simu I made man, and man was but as a tree, but dwelling in a hack, and I called him Asu, Adam. I looked over the wide heavens that I had made, and I saw countless millions of spirits of the dead that had lived and died on other corporeal worlds before the earth was made. I spake in the firmament, and my voice reached to the uttermost places. And there came in answer to the sounds of my voice myriads of angels from the roadway in heaven where the earth travelleth. I said to 'em, Behold, a new world have I created. Come ye and enjoy it. Yea, ye shall learn from it how it was with other worlds in ages past. There alighted upon the new earth millions of angels from heaven, but many of them had never fulfilled a corporeal life, having died in infancy, and these angels comprehended not procreation, nor corporeal life. And as I said, Go and deliver Asu from darkness, for he shall also rise in spirit to inherit my Etherean worlds. And now was the earth in the latter days of Simu, and the angels could readily take on corporeal bodies for themselves. Out of the elements of the earth clothe they themselves, by force of their wills, with flesh and bones. By the side of the Asuans took they on corporeal forms. And I said, Go ye forth and partake of all that is on the earth. But partake ye not of the tree of life, lest in that labor ye become procreators, and as if dead to the heavens whence ye came. But those who had never learned corporeal things, being imperfect in wisdom, comprehended not Jehovah's words, and they dwelt with the Asuans, and were tempted, and partook of the fruit of the tree of life. And lo and behold, they saw their own nakedness, and there was born of the first race Asu, a new race called man. And Jehovah took the earth out of the travail of Simu, and the angels gave up their corporeal bodies. Jehovah said, Because ye have raised up those that shall be joint heirs in heaven, ye shall tread the earth with your feet and walk by the sides of the newborn, being guardian angels over them, for they are of your own flesh and kin. Fruit of your seed have I quickened with my spirit, and men shall come forth with a bright right to my Etherean worlds. As I have quickened the seed of the firstborn, so will I quicken all the seed to the end of the earth. And each and every man child and woman child born into life will I quicken with a new spirit, which shall proceed out of me at the time of conception. Neither will I give to any spirit of the higher or lower heaven power to enter a womb, or a fetus of a womb, and be born again. As the corporeal earth passeth away, so shall pass away the first race Asu. But as I pass not away, so shall not pass away the spirit of man. Chapter 7. Jehovah said, Let a sign be given to the inhabitants of the earth, that they may comprehend on high the firmament of the heaven. For even as I bequeath to the earth a time for creating the living, and a time for angels to come and partake of the first fruits of mortality and immortality, so shall man at certain times and seasons receive testimony from my hosts in heaven. What? And Jehovah calls the earth and the family of the sun to travel in an orbit, the circuit of which requireth for them 4,700,000 years.